I will listen and I will respond. Yes. So please.
Honorable Eslau, so please proceed with your
Mr.
question.
Speaker, I'd be grateful. I can dish out a lot more than you can.
Yes,
so
please.
don't get me started.
Can you
Thank
continue with the question?
Mr. Nominee, kindly let us know what steps you would take to stimulate local consumption of locally produced goods to assist small and medium enterprises to grow their market share, not just for local consumption, but for export. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think I start from the point from which she got to a conclusion, and that relates to the fact that being the senior prefect, my approval is going to be a matter of course. I'm not entirely comfortable considering some letters I'm reading in the papers and whatever. I'm not so sure, but I don't quite share your confidence. But then again, you are in charge, you know. So there's something on the internet which I read last night and this morning. I think Mr. Speaker is aware, and maybe Ato must also be aware.
Are you answering the question?
But no, we'll deal with the question.
Please deal with the question.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, sure.
Later,
yeah,
please.
sure. Because she mentioned that as well. That's why. But the question really feeds into the point that I just made about the import substitution. That's the whole business. I mean, fact about import, the importation of everything that you can conceivably think about is brought in the country has stymied what the honourable member of parliament is talking about. Concentration on our locally produced stuff, Mr. Chairman, is waned because we're getting everything so from outside by way of importation. So effectively, the answer is in the import submission, and I've said that I've looked at a document in which cabinets already indicated some about 50 areas of concentration. I mean, that the ministry should make sure, together with the ministry, other ministries, finance particularly, to make sure that there is concentration on those areas to facilitate development of the area for those involved. We're talking about rice. It's disturbing. You look at the quantity of rice that is imported into the country. I mean, when clearly there is installed capacity in the country, not adequate, I accept, I mean, to be able to do the import substitution. Poultry, cashew, all the... Look, I also read that apparently we also produce, we import palm oil. I mean, palm oil, we all know that Malaysia talks about palm oil, and they discuss Ghana. We were at par with Ghana when we started this industrialization with our palm not locally produced, whatever. Look at us, look at Ghana. So, Honorable Member, yes, it's already been discussed. It's on the table at a government level. We hope that we'll be able to build on that. Thank you, Mr.
You're done. Yes. No, I've given too many women now. Okay. I will give them back, but for now I'm giving to, yes.
Honorable KT, congratulations.
Thank you.
Looking at your CV, page 2, you were Deputy Minister of Energy 2001-2007, and then subsequently you became Deputy Minister for the Interior 2007-2009. Now, my simple question, why did it take you so long to catch the eye of this president?
Is that your question truly, or is it just a remark? Very well.
The address for the presidency is at Jubilee House. It's opposite Christ the King Church. Is that it? Yeah. The address. The entrance is on the other side. When you get there and you seek audience with the president, listen, the president knows you very well. I'm happy. I'm sure he'll be happy to entertain the question, and then maybe over a cup of tea you can discuss those matters.
Well, let's get to real business. The Honorable Neil Lante van der Poy asked you a question, and you attempted some response. And his question had to do with the existence of so many barriers, trade barriers, within this sub-region. He actually spoke about 160 something, I don't quite remember the number, but those barriers exist. Now, you would recall that it was in an attempt to eliminate those trade barriers that the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, adopted the protocol on free movement of goods and services. But notwithstanding the existence of those protocols, not much has been achieved by way of eliminating the trade barriers that exist between us and our neighbors. Then fast forward, we have the CFTA, the Continental Free Trade Area, which is headquartered here in Accra, and we're all very happy about it. Now, Katie, when I read things about some of the objectives of the Free CFTA, which includes the creation of a single continental market for goods and services, the expansion of intra-African trade, etc. People are very excited. I get worried. We've traveled that path before. Nothing was achieved. Now we have the CF, Continental Free Trade, whatever. And you spoke about it.
Continental Free Trade Agreement.
You spoke about it.
Yeah.
My question to you is, how different is the African Continental Free Trade Area from what we had under the ECOWAS protocols, which would make it succeed?
Mr. Evans, I see that my colleague is desperate. No, don't worry. We'll be all right. You're right. I guess your point where you attempted to throw up your hands and discuss what's going on from 1974-75 when the ECOWAS then came into being. You know, but I don't think it's all been a miserable tale. I think quite a bit has been achieved. I mean, far cry from those days when we went to Nigeria and were beaten and sent back, packed into articulated trucks and brought back and those things. I think things have considerably improved. But that's not to take away the point that Neil Lante made, and of course you make about the barriers. But of course, the ECOWAS then was confined to our 15 West African countries. I think the decision now, as pretended over by the AU, is really this. Why do we have all this regional segmentation when we have a whole global continent? Why don't we see what we can do? You know, so yes, there are hurdles within the West African sub-region, but let's see what happens. It's only a few days old, literally. In the scheme of things, only a few days. It's going through its teething problems naturally, but the hope is that we would resolve, if not all of them, we'll resolve some of our local ones, West African, the ECOWAS one, and then we'll look at the fuller picture of the whole of Africa. Maybe it's a bigger platform. I mean, our economies in West Africa, not particularly big ones. Now we're expanding to the whole of Africa. Not that we encounter difficulties, but let's see how we progress from there.
Let me take you back to your CV. At page 3, you state under paragraph 9, conferences and capacity building programs, that you attended a conference of the non-aligned movement as leader of delegation. Ghana is a member of the non-aligned movement, no doubt about that. But Honorable Katie, in recent times, statements have been made by our president at the level of the UN General Assembly, and even when he had engagements with the United States Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, relative to the security situation in our sub-region and at the level of global security, where Ukraine and Russia are at war. Our president made certain statements. Now, in the light of those statements, if you like, I can give you a gist of some of the things he said. At the UN General Assembly, he was very critical of Russia for invading Ukraine. Then also when he engaged with the UN Secretary of the US Secretary of State, he made comments that sparked a diplomatic row between Ghana and Burkina Faso. But the highlights of that particular statement, which is relevant to my question, is that he raised concerns about Wagner, which is a non-state actor from Russia. The question is our membership of non-aligned movement still relevant in the light of those statements that our state officials have made in recent times?
Good question.
He's not foreign minister, but he led a delegation.
Part of cabinet also.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the honorable member has been a very good friend for a very long time. I thought he's always been looking after my back. The president has appointed me. I'm sitting here. I have not even been confirmed. I've not been taken to my office. You're asking me to discuss the president's questions. So if the letter comes in here, it's withdrawn my appointment, what do I do?
Well, kindly, what the question is, what do you think of the Ghana's position on the non-aligned movement? Discard all the part relating to the president.
Yes, I mean, Ghana has always been, I think, a good and a formidable member of non-aligned. I think non-aligned was started with the Nkrumahs, with the Titos, with the Kenyatas, with all the big boys, Indira Gandhis and all those things. So Ghana has been a part of it. We have the politics of it, which wouldn't always be aligned among the countries, but that's a different thing altogether. But they get on well, they have a common front. You should have been there when we went to Azerbaijan, what you're talking about. It was not aligned. But, countries were quite clear on their own national interests. They were very specific. They made points that concentrated not so much about the movement, but the interests of specific countries. But Ghana would always continue to be non-aligned. Look, in these days of all these superpower issues, you don't want to risk being aligned to this or not being aligned to African countries and the third world countries. Essentially taking the decision to be not aligned, Ghana would remain not aligned.
Now, Honorable Katie, concerns have been raised about our current economic meltdown, and that has led us to go in for an IMF program. The experts have spoken about some of the solutions to, turn the tide and resolve the economic malaise, etc., etc. And some of those, the solutions proffered include the downsizing of government. General question: do you accept the fact that there is need for government size to be reduced?
You see, it's a difficult question. Let's go back to President Kufuor's time. And there was a point that President Kufuor made a point that he thought a particular number of ministers and ministries, a certain number was good for the administration of the country, depending on the circumstances at the time. Another time, he calibrated that statement. In the time of President Mahama, President Mills, President Mahama, same issues. I mean, a classic example. During my days as the Deputy Minister of Energy, we had one ministry called Ministry of Energy. At the time that President Mahama, President Mills came, it was divided. You then had Ministry of Petroleum and the Ministry of Power. It was divided into two. Is it so? It's not a straightforward question of whether government has to be downsized or government is bloated or whatever. You know, so and listen. Just help me on this. I mean, I'm only going to government if House approves me. I'm going to the government for the first time. But sitting aside, I've been just wondering myself. All right, you take out my brother, the general here. You collapse the Ministry of Local Government. It's just he, the minister, local government, who will be going out. The staff would all be there. It will be there. The staff will be there. You can't sack them. They are public servants. You would have just eliminated the head, destroyed the ministry. It's a dicey issue. I mean, I see the sentiments that go with it, and we bloat it down. The letter that I referred the chairman to seems to have some reference to that. It doesn't seem to me to be entirely straightforward. But then, them are the breaks.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Congratulations on your nominations, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, permit me to reiterate the position earlier made by my colleagues. Indeed, Ghana is not just a member of the African Free Trade Continental Agreement, but the headquarters itself is housed here. And again, Ghana is signed onto the ECOWAS protocols of free movement of goods and persons. My question is intertwined. As a regional minister, the Regional Coordinating Council, and I say continuously, is faced with the challenge of Ghanaians and the entire citizenry doing business in this country compared to others who have come here to take over their local business. It's a major problem as we speak. Almost every year it comes up. Traders will go and lock shops and all that. I really want to know what your ministry will do about it if you are given the nod.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We talked a little bit about it, I think, in your absence. Oh, forgive me. Yes, but as I say, I've seen that it's under consideration within cabinet already, and the papers and the discussions I've had suggest that there have been so many high-level meetings, some of which were attended, I suspect, by your honorable self. Well, if you were not included, there have been high-level discussions with the high commissions and the embassies of the countries that are involved. I mean, particularly, I think the notorious fact essentially is the it's not really a banter. The argument has been going forth and back and forth between Ghanaian traders and the Nigerian traders. There have been a level of discussion at a very high level among the governments to ensure that the protocols are observed. I can understand. You come in here because of the protocols, which enable you to come to another country, to participate in a certain sector of the economy, and you try to take up the commanding heights of the country, of the host country. It's a difficulty, but it's also dicey. It's not straightforward. Brothers and sisters, that is the essence of this whole relationship that we're trying to establish among ourselves. You don't want to be extraordinarily hard on the citizens from other countries, but of course you also want to ensure that the laws are observed. Let's see what we can do.
Mr. Speaker, my second question may be a bit related to interministerial, but it's about consumer protection, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with your leave, I've just been Googling, and the definition that it gives is that a Bureau of Consumer Protection stops unfair, deceptive, and fraudulent business practices by collecting reports from consumers and conducting investigations. Mr. Speaker, I can go on and on and on. You sit by somebody, you call, and then it says the person you are calling is out of service area. So many of them that I can give examples. You travel to other jurisdictions, Mr. Speaker, when you ring somebody, it rings. If the person has turned his phone off, he's turned it off. And this part of the world, in Ghana specifically, Mr. I know it's Ursula, but I'm developing a point. In other areas, that falls under your jurisdiction. It's still about trade. It's intertwined. Mr. Minister, what is it that you can do to protect our local businesses in this country when you are giving the law nod, so that customers, consumers